Hi class, welcome to week 3. My apologies for the delay. As I noted in Slack, we just moved, and with 2 kids under 5, it's shockingly not as easy as it used to be to do that. Perhaps not shockingly, but so my apologies. Still trying to get settled here a little bit. So hope you guys had a good week so far. This week, as you could tell, common topics. This is kind of the last of the first half of the class, which is focusing on the more rhetorical side of business writing before we actually get to the actual application of it. Is for you guys to educate the rest of the class on a specific topic that you might find interesting or perturbing or difficult to wrap your head around, or a confusing topic that you've heard different things about. And the goal is for me not to offload the labor for you to do work that I should be doing, but just so you guys can research and see how various debates about certain things, like can you begin a sentence with and, or can you begin sentences with numerical, or kind of whatever topics that I've used there, or kind of when to avoid semicolons, should you use semicolons in business writing, is by doing a deep dive in there, you'll kind of see how people discuss these disagreements or gray areas in writing, right? And what you'll probably find is there really is no steadfast rule on it, right? And as an English professor, one of the most common, well, the most two common things that get told me is like, okay, I'll watch my grammar around you. You're an English professor. Meanwhile, I don't care at all, and because grammar is it changes, and there is no such thing as right or wrong. But in terms of grammatical structure, just conventions, right? That's what we were talking about before. And the second one is kind of all these little questions about what's the right way to use a semicolon? Can I use passive voice? Can I have this thing? So when I teach this course in person, there's kind of a litany of questions that people have kind of lined up. Like, I have all these different things. Do we have an objective in a resume? Or kind of all these things that you kind of have heard different things about over the last 10 or 15 years or even longer. Things that have changed. One of the most common ones is the amount of spaces after a sentence, right? And there's really no right answer. You have 1 space, 2 spaces, or 3 spaces. It depends if you're writing military context, academic context, corporate context, whatever it is, and they'll all be different conventions. There's some people who will die on the hill of 2 spaces, and others, like myself, who is just single space because I grew up typing, right? So it really depends on the actual technology that you use sometimes, the technology you used growing up, kind of what was the formative part of how you learned literacy. So there's kind of all these different factors, and the answer is never here's the right answer and here's the wrong answer. The answer is always, well, it depends, right? It depends on what you want, what your goal is and your objective is. There are people who say that two spaces after a period helps with clarity. It helps people chunk sentences and read faster, and there's been studies showing that. So they say, hey, I'm doing 2 spaces even though it doesn't look as good or elegant. It's good for the reader, therefore I'll do it. Anyways, all these different things. So I shared with you a study that Lunsford did. They're out of Stanford, about the top 20 grammatical mistakes that, this is undergraduate students, not business writers or anything. But I think the undergraduate students eventually become business writers. So it's not like these errors magically go away when you get your degree on convocation, right? So they're usually pretty indicative of the errors that you see in workplace context, or indicative and predictive, really, to a certain extent. So just as a good place to start, really try and choose a topic that you genuinely want to know the answer to, and that you think your peers would be interested in watching and learning about. Not something that you could just kind of look up, and something that just is what it is. Like, this is what this formatting convention is, and that's kind of the way we do things. So it could be something where there's kind of some lack of understanding or lack of clarity or lack of agreement on something. That's the ideal topic and kind of the gist behind the entire project as it was designed. So you really have 2 things that you're going to create. One is a 120-second video, also known as 2-minute video, in which you post to Slack. If there's only 8 or 10 of you, I would say, yeah, take 3 to 5 minutes, whatever you need. But because there's so many of you, 24 maybe, 25, that I don't think everyone wants to watch 25 videos of 5 minutes each. I don't mind doing that, right? But I feel like we need to make it concise so it'll be as useful to people as possible. And then on the handout, you can provide examples and maybe put the content that you wanted to talk about, but you didn't get a chance to because you only had 2 minutes. As you guys know from week 1, 1 minute goes by like that. in ways that just completely shock you. So everything goes to Slack because I want everyone to see everything. So don't submit anything to Blackboard. Post your video and your handout together as one post so they're not separated, right? Don't post your video and then like 24 hours later, be like, oh, here's the handout. You can put it in the same thread as a separate post, but don't start two separate threads. Yeah, so don't do that. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions in the channel, or put in the channel any questions you have about whether or not it's a good topic, but essentially if it's something that there is some disagreement over, that there's multiple ways of approaching, or that there's something that we all do that maybe it'd be interesting to know the history of, there's some kind of gray area of it, and you think it'd be useful for business writers to know, just right now moving forward, that you think is relevant, then most likely it's a good topic. So don't feel obligated to choose from the top 20 list. I just was giving you a sense of kind of what are the most common errors that people tend to make. And I was kind of surprised by the list when I first saw it a few years back, because it hasn't, not all those, I didn't see a lot of the stuff that I see in my kind of everyday grading appear on that list necessarily. So also keep in mind that the students are from like different universities, so there's difference in there's regional differences, there's demographic differences, there's class differences, all that stuff. So it's just students over the course of time, so you're gonna have to cancel out for a lot of those, or even if you are crossing institutions, then which institutions are you choosing, all that stuff. So let me know if you have any questions. My apologies again for the delay in the video. I'll try to get your week 2 graded by the end of the week, hopefully. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to you posting your video and your handout.